அதான் வேற ஒன்றும் இல்லை, நான் ஜென்ரலாக சொல்கிறேன், சார் எடுப்பார். அந்த எல்சிஎஸ் அப்படிங்கிறது உங்களுக்கு தெரியும். அதாவது வீடியோ, நம்ம ஆடியோ வீடியோ ஒரு இதில் ஒரு சாதாரண மொபைல்லையோ அல்லது வந்து கேமராவிலையோ எடுக்கலாம் இல்லைங்களா? வெளியே கூட ஐடி கார்டு எடுத்துருக்காங்க, அந்த மாதிரி எடுக்கலாம். ஆனால் இது வந்து எல்சிஎஸ் வந்து என்னென்னா லெக்சர் கேப்சரிங் சிஸ்டம். எல்சிஎஸ் ஸ்டாண்ட்ஸ் ஃபார் லெக்சர் கேப்சரிங் சிஸ்டம். இந்த ஸ்பாட்லேயே மிக்ஸ் பண்ணி கொடுக்கறதுங்க. பார்ட்டிசிபெண்ட்ஸு, கிளாஸ் ரூமுக்காக பார்ட்டிசிபெண்ட்டு, ரிசோர்ஸ் பர்சன், ப்ரொஃபஸர்ஸு, டீச்சர்ஸு, எனி ரிசோர்ஸ் பர்சன். அப்புறம் வந்து அந்த இதில் அது அப்படி அது ரெக்கார்ட் ஆகிறது, அது டிரான்ஸ்பரன்ஸ்க்காக வச்சுருக்கோம். அந்த மானிட்டர் இருக்கோ அது மாதிரி தான் ரெக்கார்ட் ஆகும். இந்த இடத்துல சார் போடுற மெட்டீரியல் வந்துடும், பவர் பாயிண்ட், அது வந்து அங்கே வந்துடும். அதுக்குள்ள வந்து ரிசோர்ஸ் பர்சன் நின்று பேசுறது, ஆடியோ வீடியோ, அப்புறம் இது வந்து ஸ்மார்ட்லேயே நம்ம எதுவும் மேனுவலாக ஒர்க் பண்ணாமல் ரெக்கார்ட் ஆயிரும். இப்போ சாருக்கு வந்து நாங்கள் எதாவது முடிச்சுட்டு இல்லை முடிச்சோடனே அவருக்கு எடுத்து ஷேர் பண்ணிடுவோம். அந்த மாதிரி இந்த சிஸ்டம் நீங்கள் அடுத்தது வந்து தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும்ல, அதுக்காக இதில் வந்து வேற ஒன்றும் இல்லை. அது வந்து ரெக்கார்டிங் போடுறோம். ரெக்கார்டிங் போட்டு அகாடமிக் பர்பஸுக்கு எடுத்து அதை ஷேர் பண்ணிக்குவோம். ஓகே, அதாவது இன்ட்ராக்ட் பண்ணலாம், நீங்கள் இன்ட்ராக்ட் பண்ணலாம், எல்லாம் பண்ணலாம். சார் தான், ஏன்னா நாங்கள் வந்து டெக்னாலஜி தான், அவரோட டிஸ்கிரிப்ஷன் என்ன செஞ்சாலும் கரெக்டாக இருக்கும்.
Am I audible? Last row, am I audible? Am I audible now? Fine. Okay. Yeah. Fine. So today's topic is in our unit 2, right? In our plant biochemistry, it's nutrition in plants, right? So tell me about what is nutrition, or how do you define nutrition? Is there any definition? Is there? So we know that plants, they synthesize their own food by using water, air, as well as sunlight, right? So they use these three, and they will obtain their food. Same time they need energy as well as the nutrition. So nutrition is nothing but it's a biochemical and physiological process by which an organism uses food to support its life. So normally we need energy to grow, energy to survive. Clear? So this energy will be provided by these nutrients. Okay. So it provides organisms with the nutrients which can be metabolized to create energy and chemical structure. Okay. So these food or nutrients will be metabolized, and that will be provides energy as well as the chemical structure for the plant or animal, whatever organisms. Okay. So this nutrition is, if I go for a failure, so these nutritions cannot be obtained by the plants or any organisms. So that can be leads to the many illness causes, diseases. Okay. So we can also say malnutrition, we can say, right? Malnutrition, right? So the chemical substances in food, they are called nutrients: carbon dioxide, water, minerals, carbohydrate, proteins, fat, etc. Right? So these, we know that green plants, plants are autotrophs, right? So autotrophs means the organism which can produce their own food. So it's autotrophs. So we are all heterotrophs, right? So we have to depend on the plants. So with their autotrophs, right? Okay. So organisms, they need food. How? To obtain energy, to obtain materials for growth. They provide materials for repair of damaged body parts, and they carry out life process. So all these 4 points will be provided by the nutrients. Okay. So nutrient will provide, they will provide energy. Nutrient provides materials for growth. Nutrients the materials for repair of damaged body parts, right? Then they also carry out life process. Okay, so this is the importance of nutrients. Okay, so the process of photosynthesis takes place in the green plant. The food prepared by the green leaves of the plant, right? There's a chlorophyll, chloroplast. So this will be the mechanism, there will be a machinery for the production of food for the plant. Okay, so what happens? The extra glucose is changed into another food called starch. That's what our plant materials are provided based upon the starch, right? So starch, if you break down the starch, you will get a glucose. So how our body stores glucose? In the form of glycogen, right? So plants store the glucose in the form of starch. Okay, so these green plants convert sunlight energy into chemical energy by making carbohydrates, right? Okay, so they are capable of making their food themselves, but humans and animals they cannot. So that's why we call it as a heterotrophs. Right. So the nutrients they found in soil, apart from the carbon dioxide, oxygen, water, right? The other nutrients they found in soil normally. Okay. So it's a part of gradual breakdown of the rocky material on Earth's surface. So in the mountains we can see that the seashore, why that sea became very salty because of the river flow down from mountains, and they take all the rocky materials, they make it in the powder like sand or soil. Okay, so these rocky materials they contain many minerals. So rocks contain many minerals. Okay, so these minerals they have a very small amount of minerals. The major one is alumina and silica, right? So these rocky materials they will come down to the soil. Okay, right. So another source of soil nutrient is the decomposition of dead plants and animals and their waste products. Okay, so these are all the nutrient sources, we can say it is, right? So the spadeful of soil, the soil may seem inert into the eye. Apart from an occasional earthworm, it contains billions of microorganisms. Okay, the net effect of which is to break down organic materials, releasing simpler mineral salts. Okay, so the biggest mineral salt will become a simplest mineral salts. So this simplest mineral salt can be obtained by the plants through roots. Okay, so soil or ground is the basic source of minerals, right? So these minerals formed by the rocky materials, which is gradually broken down, and it forms as a small sand. Okay, so furthermore there are two groups of bacteria. They fix atmospheric nitrogen. Okay, that is they are able to incorporate this relatively inert element into nitrate ions. So inert means it won't have any actions. So they should be active. Inert materials will be made as active materials. That's what nitrates will become nitrate ions. Okay. So this is by the bacteria, atmospheric bacteria. So these bacteria are acetobacter, azobacter. They can live freely in soil. Azobacters. Okay, they will live in the soil. So soil, while those of the genus Rhizobiums live sheltered in the roots. So you can see the Rhizobium they have attached with the roots. Okay, so these roots of a leguminous plant such as peas and beans, right? So these bacteria attach with the Rhizobium and it forms the nitrate into nitrate ions. It's an inert form into active form. Cyanobacteria, we told yesterday, they are fixed nitrogen and are important for growing rice in the flooded paddy fields of Southeast Asia. There are cyanobacteria. We have studied this heterotrophs, autotrophs, then one more is phototrophs, right? Cyanobacteria, they themselves produce. Except the cyanobacteria, all the plants and algae are autotrophs and the animals are heterotrophs. Cyanobacteria are phototrophs. Right. So this based on the bioavailability of inorganic nutrient element to the plant roots, the soil may be considered fertile or non-fertile. So what are the minerals present in the soil? Based on that, the soil can be defined as the fertile land, non-fertile land. We can see it in Nanjai, Punjai, we can see that, right? Right. So fertile land, wetland, dry land, we can say. So these minerals, available of these minerals only will provide the nutrient for the plant to grow and to form their structure, right? Apart from the carbohydrates. Okay, carbohydrates needed for their as a food. So rest of the materials, nutrients materials needed for their growth, and I have told you the 4 points: repair of the damaged cells, growth, as well as throughout the lifespan, the nutrients are needed. Okay, so term fertility refers to the inherent capacity of soil to supply nutrients to the plants in adequate amount and appropriate proportions. So the soil should contain the necessary quantity of minerals or these nutrients, as well as the proportion should be same, equal. So which are the nutrients are more needed, like iron, nitrogen, right? So they should be in a more quantity, and other nutrients, they have a macronutrient, micronutrient, right? So macronutrient we need in a more quantity, micronutrient we need in a small quantity. Okay. So in non-fertile soils, in order to increase the availability of nutrients in a balanced proportion, inorganic elements in the form of fertilizers are added. So we have adding the fertilizers. So normally in each and every agricultural farm, they add fertilizers, potash, phosphorus, calcium, like. Okay, so this shows that the particular soil is not having the required quantity of the particular inorganic material. So we have to provide that. So if any land is inadequate, or the necessary quantity is not there, so that land we can call it as an infertile land. So all the nutrients are in equal required quantity, that's a fertile land. Okay. So in that case, if the land is infertile, so we have to provide as a fertilizers. So we can see that some plants, the leaves are in pale yellow color. Normally the plants will be in a normal green color. Sometimes we can see you can ask any farmer, this is a deficiency of potassium, if this is deficiency of ash, like that they will say you. So that is the reason the land we can call it as a fertile land or non-fertile land. Okay. So most fertilizers are formulated to overcome the deficiency of mineral elements in the soil. So the soil is another major donor of nutrients. Okay. So plants, they can provide themselves the food by using sunlight, carbon dioxide, oxygen or carbon dioxide, and water. It's for carbohydrate to their food. Rest of the things are needed by the nutrients. Okay. So these nutrients will be provided by the soil. Okay. So there are 17 most important nutrients of our plants. Okay. So plants must obtain the following. One is nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, sulfur, magnesium, carbon, oxygen, hydrogen. These are all called macronutrients. Okay. So they need a more quantity. And iron, boron, chlorine, manganese, zinc, copper, molybdenum, nickel, they are micronutrients. Okay. So all should be there in the land, then only the plant can grow healthier. Any one of these minerals are not there, the plant will become a deficient, or it can show any disease in the plant. So inorganic materials present in the earth's crust are used for nutrition by plants by extracting them from soil or the aquatic environment. So plant can be used to these minerals or nutrients either from soil as well as water. Okay. So these elements are formed by the complex interaction involving weathering of rock minerals. Okay. It's thousands or millions of years the rocks will be weathering it. They will getting weathered and it will be forms the minerals. The decay of organic matter like animals and microbes, they also will provide the mineral content to the soil. So nitrogen is exceptional as it is primary source of gaseous nitrogen of the atmosphere. Little occurs in minerals. So nitrogen is the gaseous source mostly, and very similar, very small amount will be available as a minerals. Okay. So roots absorb the mineral nutrients in the form of their salts dissolved in soil and water. So that these minerals will be absorbed by the roots, by the soil, from the soil or water. Right. So the study of absorption of inorganic mineral element and their assimilation by plants called mineral nutrition. Okay. So we are studying that mineral nutrition. So once the elements are observed by the roots, they are translocated to the various parts of the plant. Right? How we are eating the food, that can be transported throughout the body, right, in the different forms. Same way. So the plant where they involved in carrying out important biological functions, resulting in normal growth and development. So a plant can grow by using all these minerals. Okay. So there we can call it as essential nutrients. Okay, or essential elements. Okay, right. So the nutrients or elements which are essential for healthy growth of the plant. It is called as essential nutrients. Okay. The roots absorb about 60 different elements. A root can absorb from the soil. It can be 60 different elements. Okay. So there's one essential element of following criteria. An essential element. What is the meaning of essential element? Why is a particular element called as a essential? Okay. It should be absolutely necessary for normal growth and reproduction of the plant. The particular mineral or particular nutrition should be mentioned as essential. That means that it should be required, it should be necessary for the normal growth and reproduction of the plant. Okay. There should be a part of essential metabolite for a plant growth. So while plant is growing, there's a metabolism takes place. Like in our body, metabolism takes place each and every time metabolism takes place. So likewise, each and every metabolism, that particular mineral should be involved. So that's why it is called essential nutrition. Then the requirement of the element is very specific and it cannot be replaced by other element. Right? So the particular, for example, phosphorus is needed, there should be a phosphorus. This phosphorus cannot be replaced by iron. Okay. Then the third one is the element is directly or indirectly involved in the metabolism of the plant. Okay. Then fourth one is the deficiency of this particular element that leads to the plant would exhibit a specific symptom of deficiency, and the plant would recover from its symptoms if supplied with a deficient element. So for example, magnesium. Magnesium is one of the essential elements. Okay, because it is essential for the formation of chlorophyll molecule. In the plant, the chlorophyll should be formed, then only it can absorb the sunlight. Then only it can produce the glucose. Right? So that particular chlorophyll should be formed, that should be needed for the magnesium. So if the deficiency of the magnesium, that shows that the symptom of deficiency shows that the leaves will become yellow. Right? If you can see any plant with a yellow leaf or pale green leaf, pale yellow leaves, that shows that it's a symptom of magnesium deficiency. Right? So why the magnesium? Magnesium needed for the chlorophyll formation. So chlorophyll only gives the green color for the leaves. If the chlorophyll is not there, it becomes pale yellow. Right? That shows that deficiency of magnesium. Okay. So all these 4 points needed for required to identify the particular element is the essential element. Okay. So one is the necessary for normal growth and reproduction. The requirement for specific and it cannot be replaced by other element. The third one is directly or indirectly it should be involved for the metabolism. Then fourth one, it should be exhibit a specific symptom if it is a deficiency. Okay. So the types we can see micro elements and macro elements. Okay. The micro means very smaller quantity. The requirement of the plant. If it is a smaller amount or larger amount. Okay. So required micro elements are micronutrients. So required in minute quantities like 0.1 milligram per gram of dry matter. If you take a dry leaf, 1 gram of dry leaf or dry weight of the particular material, there should be 0.1 milligram requirement of the particular nutrients. Okay. This is also called trace elements. Trace level, we can say trace level. Okay. For manganese, boron, cobalt, copper, molybdenum, iron, zinc, chlorine, they are required very small quantity. That means 0.1 milligram is enough for the plant. Then macro elements are macronutrients. They require very large quantities like 1 to 10 milligram. Minimum 1 milligram should be needed per gram of dry matter. So dried leaf or dried stem, it should contain minimum 1 milligram to 10 milligram of the nutrients. Those are all carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium and magnesium, nitrogen and sulfur. So they need minimum 1 gram, sorry 1 milligram. Less than 1 milligram, 0.1 milligram, it's a micronutrient. Okay. So 1 to 10 milligram is macronutrient. So this much quantity needed for the plant. Okay. So the source of essential elements, for example, carbon. It's taken as carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, right? Then oxygen, same, absorbed in the molecular form from air or from water. H2O we have, so oxygen also there, or in the form of air. It is also generated within a green plant during photosynthesis. You know, we studied about 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 6 molecules of water. It gives C6H12O6, it's a glucose. We need 6 molecules, right? Then hydrogen released from water during photosynthesis in the green plant, right? Then nitrogen. They are absorbed by the plants as a nitrate ion, NO3 minus, and ammonium ion, NH4 plus, from the soil. So nitrogen, the plants will be absorbed from the soil. Carbon, oxygen, hydrogen will be absorbed by the air as well as water. Nitrogen from the soil in the form of nitrate ion and ammonia. Okay. Then potassium. Potassium, calcium, iron, phosphorus, sulfur, magnesium. So these are all absorbed from the soil. They are actually derived from the weathering of rocks. So long time the rocks will be developed. So they are called mineral elements. Since it is from the rock, they are called as minerals. Okay. So they are absorbed in the ionic forms. For example, potassium in the K plus, calcium Ca2 plus, iron Fe3 plus, then phosphorus H2O PO4 or HP4 2 minus. This is the in the form these nutrients absorbed from the soil. Okay, what is the role of these macro and micro elements? So they have performing various functions. They carry out several metabolic processes in the plant. Cells like the maintenance of turgidity of cell, the intact. Okay, cell should be in the proper structure and proper form, shape. Transportation of electrons. It can transport electrons from one cell to another cell. Then membrane permeability and enzyme activity. So all these taken care by the macro and micro nutrients. Essential elements act as the important constitutions of the biomolecules as a coenzyme, right? So it supports the enzyme, act as a coenzyme. Okay. So you might have seen that Fe plus and Mg plus when you're writing the metabolism, the enzyme and the coenzyme cofactor you can know. NADPH, NADH, and Fe2 plus Fe. So that's act as a cofactors. This can be obtained from these minerals. Okay. So turgid means that this is the flaccid plant. I mean that it won't have a proper shape and size. So this is a turgid plant. So this strength given by the nutrients. Okay. You can say steady body position. So proper turgidity illam irukku. Okay. So nitrogen is the in the NO2 minus, NO3 minus or NH4 ion. This is the form of nitrogen. So the region of the plant, which part of the plant is required? One is all the tissues, particularly in the meristematic tissues. The function of the nitrogen, this is required for the synthesis of amino acids. So you have nitrogen contain NO2, ammonia. So each and every amino acid we need N terminus, right? Amino terminus is there, right? You know, amino groups are there in the amino acids. That is needed from, that is obtained from the nitrogen. Okay. And proteins, nucleic acids, vitamins, hormones, coenzyme, ATP and chlorophyll. So all these nitrogens are important. Okay. Then phosphorus. It is in the form of H2PO4 or HPO4 2 minus. Okay. They are needed for young tissues from the older metabolically less active cells. So all the tissues needed for this. Phosphorus. Okay. They are required for synthesis of nucleic acid, phospholipids, ATP. You know ATP is they have a contained phosphate. ADP, they have contained phosphate, right? AMP, they have a phosphate. So the ADP, ATP, and other nucleic acids, everything having the phosphate groups in that. So for that, the phosphorus is needed. Okay, and NADP, then constituent of cell membrane and some proteins. Okay, then potassium. It's in the form of K plus in the meristematic tissue, buds, leaves, and root tips. Okay, so they activate enzymes associated with the potassium and sodium. So sodium, potassium will be transported. Sodium potassium pump, right? The sodium will be transported inside the cell, and potassium will be come out. Okay, so this pump will be using the active transport for that into the potassium. Okay, once the potassium enters into the cell, sodium will come out. Okay, same way, vice versa, right? So they have an anion-cation balance in the cells. It brings about opening and closing of stomata. Common in cell sap in plant cell vacuoles and helps in turgidity of cells. So cell shape and structure will be maintained by the potassium. Okay. Then calcium, Ca2+. They need a meristematic and differentiating tissues. They accumulate in older leaves. Okay, not in the young leaves. Older leaves, you can find out the calcium. It is present as a calcium pectate in the middle lamella of the cell wall. That cell walls that joins the adjacent cell together. So both the cells join together. In between, you can find the calcium. Okay, in the cell walls, near the cell walls. So they activate the enzymes needed for growth of root and shoot tip. So when a plant grows, there will be a tip, shoot tip, as well as a root tip. So this growth, these plants needed calcium. Okay, because it's a play in between the cell wall, right? So this can activate the enzymes, which enzymes needed for the growth of root and shoot tip. Okay, needed for normal cell wall development. Cell wall should be strong, right? So for that they need a calcium. Okay, required for a cell division, cell enlargement. When cell divides, calcium is needed. Cell grows, calcium is needed, right? Root grows, calcium needed. Shoot grows, calcium needed. Okay, so all these purpose calciums are needed. Then magnesium, it's in Mg2+. Leaves of the plant, this can be available in the leaves of the plant. They forms part of the chlorophyll molecules. Since it is a present in the leaf, chlorophyll form once the chlorophyll should be formed when the magnesium is present. Then only the leaves become green. Otherwise it become yellow, right? Activate the enzymes of phosphate metabolism. They important for synthesis of DNA and RNA. Essential for binding of ribosome subunits. So ribosome subunits mean there should be DNA, there should be an RNA, mRNA will be there for the synthesis of proteins. Okay, same way the magnesium is needed for growth or formation of chlorophyll, right? Then sulfur is in the form of SO4 2-. Stem and root tips, young leaves of the plant. So this sulfur will be available in this part of the plant. This is a sulfur, you know that it's the constitution of what ammonia? It's which amino acid? Cysteine and methionine. Okay, so they form some proteins. So when proteins formation, we need cysteine and methionine. So for that, this sulfur will be there because they are sulfur containing amino acids, methionine and cysteine. So this present in a coenzyme A and vitamin, thiamine, biotin and ferredoxin. So all these vitamins is present as a coenzyme A and increase root development. When the sulfur is there, the root development will be more. Increase the nodule formation in the legumes. There should be a new legume growth, no? The nodule should be formed. For this, they need a sulfur. Then iron. Okay, it's present in leaves and seeds. Needed for the synthesis of chlorophyll. Again, iron also needed for it. As a constituent of ferredoxin and cytochromes, this activates the enzyme catalase. There's an enzyme, it's an antioxidant. The enzyme catalase will break down the oxidants, free radicals. Okay. Then manganese in the form of Mn2+. Is present in all the tissues. They collect along the leaf vein.